In North Carolina, the Fox affiliate down there is running stories that Kay Hagan is being investigated by the Department of Natural Resources there for her family business receiving stimulus. Can a story that breaks this late have much of an impact on the election?
I would think not. I think for two reasons. One, a lot of people have already voted. Two, people are often rightly skeptical of stories like that break very late. It's kind of like, why did that happen right now? And third, a lot of people may not catch up with that story until sometime tomorrow. So, a story like that, has to be, significant, well-sourced, clearly has the goods, and it has to be done usually earlier.
All right. Now, the other story that broke today, which got a lot of play, is this bit of audio from Senator Tom Harkin out on the campaign trail. Let me play it. Cut number 9.
For this sense that, I heard someone say about Joni first. She's really attractive. And she sounds nice. I don't care if she's as good looking as Taylor Swift. Or as nice as Mr. Rogers. But if she looks like Michelle Bachmann, she's wrong for the state of Iowa.
So Dan Balz, Taylor, Tom Harkin says if Joni Ernst is really attractive, she's as good looking as Taylor Swift, as nice as Mr. Rogers, but if she votes like Michelle Bachmann, she's not for Iowa. That's gone everywhere. Does that matter?
A little bit, but Iowa's also in the same place as North Carolina, lots of early vote. Harkin has, I think, come out and said he regretted saying what he said, and but it has gotten a lot of attention, and it's an embarrassing comment for him to have to walk back on the eve of the election.
Dan, I want to go back to the Tillis-Hagan race and that story that is breaking in the mainstream media today, basically. Setting aside whether or not it will make a difference at the 11th hour here, do you think an incumbent senator under investigation by state officials for a possible conflict of interest involving her family being enriched, is that a newsworthy story in the abstract?
Yes, in the abstract, it's a newsworthy story.
Okay, and the reason I asked that is because this is a story that a conservative outlet, the Carolina Journal, has been really going after very hard for weeks now, and the mainstream media has absolutely refused to cover it. The Charlotte Observer ran a story a few days ago, and then it mysteriously disappeared off of their website. It never appeared in print. Now it's finally the day before the election, and one mainstream media source is picking up on this, and it has been confirmed by the state officials that the investigation is underway. So I understand what you're saying. I actually agree with your analysis that something dropping this late looks suspicious to a lot of voters, and they've already voted, so it might not have a big impact. But don't you think there's a question here for the media in the state of North Carolina, having chosen to ignore this story for weeks? Couldn't it have had an effect if they began reporting it and started really digging into it weeks ago when it first started to percolate?
It's been sort of in the air down there, and if you're reading about the race, you know that there is something, kind of floating around about this. I honestly don't know enough about why other news organizations down there did not choose to dig into it, because it does seem like a legitimate story. And I think the papers down there, the news organizations, tend to be pretty good, solid operations. So I don't know enough about why it didn't get the attention that it may deserve to get or should have gotten at an earlier point.
So let me ask you this, and I know this is a hypothetical, and I think that's a really strong answer that you just gave. I'm just saying, let's say you were running the newsroom in Raleigh or in Charlotte or something like that down there, and this story came across your desk, and there was some actual evidence coming across as well, and the story kept building, and the Hagan people are saying we consulted lawyers. If you were the editor-in-chief down there, would you have chosen to pursue this story more aggressively than the state media apparently has?
It is. I hate to sound like a politician. It is a hypothetical, and I don't know enough about the particulars of that to make that call.
It's okay to sound, Dan Balz. I'm with a lot of hypothetical non-answers myself on the trail, but here's a non-hypothetical. This is just having watched for years. The early voting, Cory Gardner's coming up after the break. he's won Colorado. If we look at the numbers, it looks like Cory Gardner's won. But if something happened today, if Cory Gardner came out and said something crazy today, or in North Carolina, if this proved to be true, the Department of Natural Resources story gets published in full and Kay Hagan's got $300,000 in her pockets, isn't early voting bad because it allows voters don't get the whole story?
Well, no, I don't think early voting is bad. I think anything that is designed to get as many people to the polls in as easy a way as possible is probably good. It does change the nature of messaging in campaigns, as all campaigns, if they haven't already learned it, have begun to learn it. And that also does affect the power of so-called earned media and the timing of it. But, that's the world in which we live now, and I think that early voting, I think it's only going to grow, and it's really up to campaigns to figure out how to take most advantage of that. I mean, there are a lot of campaigns that think about when do we do most of our advertising, and I know we're seeing a ton of advertising in these battleground states even now, but a lot of it is wasted money, as we know. In terms of coverage, you can never predict when something's going to pop up, and I know news organizations wrestle with these questions when things come in over the transom very late, or when Oppo researchers show up with things very late. That you have to weigh a lot of considerations in knowing what to do. So it's an imperfect process, but I don't think this argues against early voting.
Although, I
want to go back to Colorado for a minute.
Oh, please.
Only because I just talked to somebody out there not more than an hour ago. At this point, based on the early vote, Gardner looks to be in pretty good shape. But there's apparently still some of that early vote that hasn't been reported, and I think that the Democrats are still looking at with some hope, because of some of the places that haven't reported a lot, which are like Denver, I guess, and Boulder. This is what I was told. That margin, which is in the neighborhood of 8 points, if it shrinks to 5 or 6, or 5, then Udall may have an opportunity. So
Dan, they didn't count on the effect of most of Boulder being stoned all the time when they passed that initiative. That's why all those things are going to come in late.